forward it.
This is on, you have to just change this on
Okay.
the other.
Good afternoon, everyone. The panel before me already told me that you're hungry, you're thirsty, you're tired, so I'll make my presentation really quick. Since morning, you've heard about semiconductor ecosystem, you've heard about fabulous design capabilities from AMD, you heard about tools, technologies from Cadence, you heard about manufacturing, Foxconn. So all of this you have already heard. So what I decided is I'm going to talk about sustainability. I'm going to talk about semiconductor industry like perhaps you have not heard since the morning. Let me start with semiconductor industry worldwide uses 100 terawatt hour of energy. And I want you to remember just three numbers for me: 0.5%, 1%, and 2%. Let me tell you, semiconductor industry uses 0.5% of the global energy. Semiconductor industry uses 1% of global industrial water usage. And semiconductor industry emits 2% of the global greenhouse emission. These are some of the things that we have to take care of before we think semiconductor industry. So over the last year, I must tell you, the leading semiconductor players have been going through a lot of challenges as far as it comes to sustainability. Taiwan braced for further water shortages in its chip-making hubs. Taiwan's semiconductor industry faces dilemma of carbon lock-in emission. The chip industry has problem with its giant carbon footprint. All of these challenges are faced by the semiconductor industry. So the whole purpose of this slide is to set the expectation what are some of the other challenges that the semiconductor industry is facing and how sustainability can become a strength and power for India. And I will show you what are we doing in that area to attract the investors. Very high level, 100 megawatt per hour is the usage of power. 20 million liters per day of water. 20 million liters per day of water translates into 100,000 people's water requirements per day. 100,000. So it's like a small city's water usage. And I'll tell you, the power that we use is entire France in semiconductor industry for an entire year. So the challenges with semiconductor industry is around power requirement, around pure water. And by the way, 1.5x water is fed into getting the ultra pure water, which is 1x required for semiconductor industry. So water, power, and greenhouse emissions are very critical to think of before we think semiconductor industry. I want to show you the next slide. So I've already laid what the semiconductor industry entails. Now, when such a problem is faced by this industry, what are the investors, the companies, the semiconductor stalwarts doing? They're working towards net zero requirement. They're working towards stringent sustainability requirements and looking at how do they work on expanding their supply chain to address. So Google and IBM and Apple are looking at getting net zero by 2030. My own company, ex-company, Intel, Qualcomm and Amazon by 2040. I'll give you a story on Intel. Intel is present in Arizona for its fabs. Do you know that in the year 2020, Intel consumed 5.2 billion gallons of water in the year of 2020 in Arizona? And Arizona is a desert. So what did Intel do? Intel put a reclamation facility where they take the water and reclaim it, clean it, make it free of all of those chemicals, hazardous minerals, materials, and they have the ability to clean 9.2 million gallons per day, which means the 5.2 billion that they consumed, 63% of it they clean every single year. So every company that's investing in the semiconductor fab has to think and has to plan all of these sustainability requirements. And by the way, sustainability is very critical focus of India. And India's belief is by 2047 or 2070, India will get to net zero. The companies that are investing in semiconductors are looking at expanding their supply chain, looking at ways to get emission reduction, adopting renewable energy sources and innovations, expanding into the supplier base which have these kind of net zero capabilities, selecting suppliers, locations. And by the way, it's going to be extremely critical to choose locations which address these concerns of power, these concerns of water, and these concerns of greenhouse emissions through the sustainability measures that they are putting on. And I can tell you that the concept of circular economy has been instilled in India's DNA. So I really think looking at the requirements of the investor of semiconductors, India can play a good, strong role. What have India and India's government been doing in the terms of green economy to support sustainable manufacturing? Sustainability has been a key focus. In fact, the G20 presidency that we are driving this year, sustainability is a critical topic. And like I said before, net zero emission by 2070. We made tremendous focus on getting solar and wind energy capacity. And by the way, just yesterday, the Prime Minister announced that India will be housing the largest solar capacity out of this country in the coming decade. India is the fourth largest globally renewable energy installed capacity base. Just in 2015, we were 38 gigawatt to now 172. Our goal is in this coming few years, this decade, become 500 gigawatt. If I look at the fossil fuels, the fossil fuel percentage today is about 65% or so. And our goal is to get it down to 45%. Our focus has been a lot on green energy, clean power, circular, economy. We've also been focusing on, waste to wealth. We've also been focusing on water. In fact, Jal Jeevan Mission is looking at increasing the availability of water to every single person in India by 3x by 2030. In the next few years, 3x increase in the availability of water. So India is really positioning itself to be the sustainability leader. And who requires it most is the semiconductor industry. So I really think when the investors are looking at if my operations in India happen, how close does it bring to my net zero goals? And here are some of the areas that India is focusing on. I want to tell you that all of these sustainability efforts, by the way, I'll just give you a small story. I have my friends like Vindam sitting in the audience. Sustainability is in our DNA. I used to live in US for the last, 15 years or so. And I'll tell you, Indians were being made fun of that, they bring grocery bags from the grocery stores and use it in their trash cans. And it was, like, oh, we are saving money. But reality is, circular economy is in our DNA. And I just want to share with you what our minister talks about. He says India's semiconductor mission will be powered by green energy. Such a powerful, such a committed, goal that we have to power the semiconductor industry through clean energy. The other thing, India is almost synonymous to people, and India is almost synonymous to software. When I look at the tech talent, by the way, the workforce of India is 500 million, and of the 500 million, the technology talent is 5.4 million. And I will tell you, when I was part of Intel, I did an analysis. Half of them are MNC ready. So it is a very strong technology workforce base that can be leveraged. And one interesting thing that I very recently learned, it's called a Stanford AI Index. Stanford AI Index claims that India is first when it comes to AI skill penetration in manufacturing. So we're going to look at our technology talent base, we're going to look at AI, and look at how do we increase, optimize, our yields of the fab. How do we look at minimizing the power consumption, minimizing the water consumption? How do we look at reducing the greenhouse emissions? So all of that in terms of sustainability innovation that India can drive through its talented workforce. I want to finish with, a requirement that I have put forth to all of the investors. I must tell you that India is driving sustainability first, rather than sustainability as an afterthought, sustainability first as a mindset. Through its ministries, we have a water ministry, we have a renewable energy ministry, we have a science and technology ministry, we have a skilling. So that's the focus that we have from what India is trying to drive. So investors, look at that for India. To our industries, look at the investment in some of these allied areas: green energy, AI and data analytics, water purification, water rejuvenation, and then greenhouse emissions. And lastly, to the government, I really love it that across the ministries we have this focus. I want to end with a statement that our Prime Minister made yesterday. He said, टुकड़ों में सोच कर, टुकड़ों में काम कर, कोई समाज, कोई देश प्रगति नहीं कर सकता. Which means we cannot think of work or innovative ideas in piecemeal. We all have to come together and drive innovation at scale. Thank you very much.